I believe that my classroom approach to assessment is one that looks at the full extent of student learning. And that means that I'm looking at the whole student, not just on specific parts of how he or she does a test or quiz. It also means that I'm looking for ways to encourage them, as well as pointing their strengths and their weaknesses. And I must always point them to the end goals or to the learning goal. But the way that they do it, the way that they get there, they have freedom in doing it. It is important to note, however, that I don't believe there's one best type of assessment. Because if you look at it, there's no magic formula that works for every single class, for every single student. Each class is unique, each student is unique. What worked with one class may not work with another one. However, I do believe there are 3 questions that I can ask myself to make sure that I am conducting good assessment. The questions are: where are you going? Where are you right now? And how can you get there? So where you're going is just, before I assess anything, I must always make sure that I give the students clear criteria, so they have a clear target, clear learning goals, so that they're able to get there with no problems. They know where they're going. And I can't access something that is not clear to them or is not clear to myself. So those are important points also for later on to help students become autonomous. The second question, where am I at, is important, and that's where assessment really becomes more broad. So this is finding out, both for myself as a teacher and my students, and even their caregivers or parents, where they're at with their learning, where they're at with their content and their understanding. And there are many different ways that one can do that, whether through observations, on conferences, gallery walks, small groups, entire class, classroom discussions, big projects that encompass various skills to put it together. There are so many different ways, and from that's where I'll be able to determine with the student where they're at with their learning. They'll be able to self-assess them and get help from their peers to know where they're at. And another part of it, which is the feedback, also goes along with the third question, which is where you're going to, where are your next steps. And that is where feedback is so important. It must be done in a way that points the student to the task and where they need to go next with the task. It shouldn't focus on who the student is and on their character, but rather on how they're performing in a given task. And that's where it gets more challenging, and that's why proper feedback is so important, so that students may know and analyze for themselves what steps they need to do next. And that's also important for me as a teacher to model that to them, so that they're comfortable with doing it in the future. With each time they do it, become more self-sufficient in that particular task. So this is what my approach to assessment would be. I know it's very hard and difficult to do it, especially in a big classroom, to take a look at each one of the students' individual needs. However, I believe that by following these 3 questions, these 3 criteria for assessment, I will be able to get them in such a way that will flow really well with the day-to-day classroom activities.